Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Fatboyz Dynasty Podcast presented by Fantasyholics. As always, coming at you, Bo and Brant. We're going to hit on some projections today. We're going to talk about a trade candidate. I'm going to hit a trade away. I believe you have a trade for candidate. And then we're going to hit on some projections to get you ready for your Week 8 in fantasy. And we're going to wrap it up with our favorite thing to do is talk about some of our college players, talking running backs today. And then we're going to wrap it all, or put it all together with the Thursday night preview.
That we are. This is starting to become one of my favorite thing of the week. You know, waiver claims are cool. They're fun, but they're definitely not nearly as sexy as a trade. We all know that trading's half the reason a lot of us get into fantasy football. So this is definitely becoming one of my favorite episodes, second to the live show where we get to be with everybody on Sunday mornings. So this is definitely something that I enjoy.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm going to jump straight into it. My trade away is Deebo Samuel with the addition of, right now he's wide receiver 12 in PPR, but with the addition of CMC, he's going to lose out on some of that backfield gadgety plays. This past week playing Kansas City, he only saw 7 targets, and that's with a limited role from CMC. And I mean, not to mention that Jimmy G averages roughly 25 to 27 pass attempts per game. Over the last, 2 games, he had to throw a lot. They trailed for the entire game to your Falcons 2 weeks ago, and then they were in a shootout with the Kansas City Chiefs this week. Jimmy G's just not going to be throwing the ball as much. He has one of the best, if not the best, check down running back in the NFL. Brandon Ayuk is starting to get work. George Kittle's starting to come back on. And I just don't see how Deebo is going to maintain those wide receiver 1 numbers. Like I said, he's number 12 right now. He's right there on the tippy, on that little edge. He's about to be pushed off the cliff and fall into the, wide receiver 2 realm. And really where he's sitting at right now, I think you still could name value and his rank as a top 12. I still think that you could possibly put him with maybe a small running back to maybe a guy that just lost Breece Hall or maybe is, missing Elliott possibly this week. You could probably package Deebo in a low-tier running back, a startable one, or, even a handcuff to another guy. Maybe you have Alexander Madison or Tony Pollard. I don't think I'm getting rid of Pollard. But we'll say maybe you have Madison or you have James Robinson, and maybe you want to package those, that and Deebo. I still think you can get a better value a better value wideout to fill that void. I know I like, let's see, you could probably go out, you could probably get DK, especially with DK being banged up. We do know DK is the number 1 wideout in Seattle when he comes back. It sounds like he might play this week. I'm almost hoping he doesn't as a Seahawks fan just because I want him to be rested. I think you can go out and I think you can get a guy that is going to get plenty of targets and plenty of work still out there.
Yeah, so I definitely agree, Brent, with the take on trading Deebo Samuel after the Niners acquired CMC, just because of with Deebo not getting that backfield work and not being able to scheme him coming out of the backfield. I think he's going to lose some of his fantasy value. Now, this is still a guy that could make or break your fantasy week on one play. He catches one and gets loose, which we all know he's got that yak ability. He catches one and gets loose for a 75-yard touchdown. It really doesn't much matter what CMC does after that point. But with that being said, if I'm trading Deebo Samuel, I think I'm shipping him to try to upgrade my running back. I think I'm going to look someplace at a guy that doesn't have a top-end wideout and try to ship him for a top-end running back. Maybe somebody's down on Jonathan Taylor right now just because of how the season's gone, and you could flip, Deebo Samuel straight up for a guy like Jonathan Taylor. Or my favorite one, I think, right now would be to ship Deebo Samuel to the guy who's been missing out points every week from DeAndre Swift. I think DeAndre Swift's a guy you could acquire. You could probably almost send Deebo Samuel to DeAndre Swift and get like a wide receiver 3 back in return, like maybe an Adam Thielen or something, with Deebo Samuel going in the opposite direction because DeAndre Swift's just not been playing. So I think it's definitely something to keep your eye on and something to look at there if you're looking to move Deebo. Now, I did a trade for candidate, and This guy, I think he piques my interest a little bit more because of the trades that are happening in the NFL right now, and I think this guy is a very strong trade candidate. Brandon, I remember if you think back to our very, very first initial off-season episode about talking about shocking things that you thought were going to happen this year, our hot takes episode, if you will, you mentioned this guy's name, and that's Kareem Hunt there out of Cleveland. And there's two reasons why I want to trade for Kareem Hunt right now. The first reason is, in best case scenario, he gets sent someplace like, to my Atlanta Falcons or the Los Angeles Rams, where he's going to instantly walk in the door and be the alpha dog. If Kareem Hunt goes someplace where he doesn't have a Nick Chubb in front of him, this is a guy that's already led the National Football League in his career in rushing yards, so he's more than capable. He's getting up there in age, but in redraft, I don't really care. And in Dynasty, I think I can get him cheap enough that I don't care there either. But let's talk about worst case scenario. Okay, so worst case scenario, he doesn't get traded. Well, right now he's the bottom guy in the RB2 category. He's the 24th overall running back in PPR formats right now. So we all know Nick Chubb misses a game or two as the season progresses anyway. So you're telling me I'm getting a running back 2 in Kareem Hunt at worst case scenario, and we're through week 7. We're going into week 8 here, Brant, where Cleveland's 3 weeks away from getting somebody that I'm pretty sure they're looking awful forward to having in Deshaun Watson. They didn't pay him all that absurd amount of money and spend all of them draft picks because he was a bad quarterback. Okay, that guy's going to elevate the offense when he walks in the door. Nothing against Jacoby Brissett. He's been just fine, but Deshaun Watson's going to take that offense to a whole other level. And you're telling me that I could potentially get one of the best catching backs in football to pair along with Deshaun Watson. And I'm really thinking, even though Kareem Hunt's our running back 24, unless he's with the Chubb owner, he's probably available. I would be willing to bet, and I bet you could get him for a guy like you mentioned. Like somebody like DK Metcalf, who, yes, DK's been playing good, but he's banged up. Maybe I don't want to take the injury concerns. Maybe I'm a 3-3 or 3-4 team or a 4-3 team, and I need somebody I know I'm going to be able to play in my flex. Maybe I make that DK Metcalf for Kareem Hunt trade, and then if Kareem Hunt ends up someplace where he's the lead dog, you hit the mega jackpot there. And if he doesn't get traded and Deshaun Watson comes back and he's catching passes out of the backfield from Deshaun Watson, you're still hitting like a mini jackpot at that point. So this is definitely a guy I'm looking to acquire, looking to get my hands on anywhere I can at this point. And I think Kareem Hunt owners, even after the trade deadline, whether he moves or not, are going to be very, very happy after week 11. So that's my trade for guy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a guy like you already said that we've already seen him do it. We've already seen him be the lead dog in the backfield. He takes over with no problem stepping in when Nick Chubb does leave or misses time. But yeah, Kareem Hunt's definitely a guy in that rumor mill of being traded. And like you said, if he goes somewhere, that's definitely a jackpot. But yeah, selling somebody that if you went running back heavy and or you went wide receiver heavy, and that's easily to be able to trade, a flex wide receiver for him. And like you said, he's sitting there as an RB2 right now, and that's, with Jacoby Brissett and, Nick Chubb getting all that work. So, yeah, Kareem Hunt's definitely a guy I'd be going after.
Absolutely.
Excuse me. Let's get into these projections a little bit. As you guys saw heard last week, we're going to do a couple of names, go over under on their projections on what we think and why, and play a little game with it. So I'm going to start right there with the quarterback. I got Trevor Lawrence out of Jacksonville. He's going against one of the toughest defenses in Denver against quarterbacks and fantasy points. They only give up around 10 fantasy points on average per game to quarterbacks throughout this year. Not to mention he's going to London. He's got to travel. Not 8:30 or 9:30 start time, our time. So, I mean, you're talking it's an early morning game for him. Might be late over there, but it's going to be an early game. I'm taking his under his 18.75 projection and a half-point PPR. I just don't think he gets there. I think Denver really hassles him with the ball, and I just don't see how he gets to 18.7. He's gone under 18.7 points 5 out of 7 games already this year. So it's not a normal number for him.
I'm going over, and for a lot of the same reasons you just mentioned that he should go under. Denver's got to travel too, and that's not easy on a defense either. And listen, I'm not saying they're a superstar cast, but Trevor Lawrence does have Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, Marvin Jones Jr., Travis Etienne. I like Trevor Lawrence a lot. I think the rest of the season you're really going to see some good numbers out of Trevor. I think Trevor Lawrence goes over it this week. It may come in the way of a lot of short passes and keeping the ball away from Patrick Surtain and letting these skills position players take off with the ball in their hands. I just think he finds a way to get it done. You know, he's also mobile. You get him down around the goal line, it's not shocking to see him sneak one in. I think he gets it done this week.
Okay.
And just simply because it's London, you never know what's going to happen. So I'm going to stick at the quarterback position here, and I got one for you. And this one's very cringeworthy, okay, because it's a big name and it's a low projection. But you've got Aaron Rodgers traveling to play the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, projected at 17.9 points, so less than Trevor Lawrence in London. What do you make of that?
We said Aaron Rodgers in Buffalo, he's going under. I think Buffalo is going to put pressure and cause a lot of turnovers from Aaron Rodgers. And I'm sorry, Aaron Rodgers just doesn't have a supporting cast, and it doesn't really sound like with his interviews on the Pat McAfee show and what he's saying, I don't know how his teammates even have confidence or trust him really anymore. He's saying any guy that makes a mistake needs to be out, and we need to let these younger guys get a chance, and I just don't know. I don't know what is going on with that offense, and I don't trust it at all. I'm saying under.
I think Aaron Rodgers also goes over his projection this week, and I think that's because the Buffalo Bills get out to a pretty sizable lead at some point in this game. The Bills are one of those teams that they can have three offensive plays and score 3 touchdowns. So this is one of those games that could get away real quick from the Packers. And if Aaron Rodgers is having to throw the ball a lot, as long as he's completing more of them to his own guys than he is to Buffalo, he's going to have a real good chance to hit 17. It's just real low for the back-to-back MVP. I know he's been awful this year, and I get all that. And if this was at maybe even 19 points, I might shy away from it a little bit. But 17, I think he can get over. I think you're going to see him toss a touchdown or 2 this week. He's probably going to have a pick to go along with it. But he does still have some. I mean, the weapons aren't what they were in the past. But Aaron Jones is always going to be a threat. Robert Tonyan's turning into one, just like you and I kind of predicted at the beginning of the season. So this is something I think. Again, I'm not going to go over on all of these, but so far I'm liking them.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to go to one that you and me talked about earlier today, and that's the running back position and Derrick Henry in Tennessee. He's at 17.18 points against Houston, and I expect him to smash that number. The last 3 games, he's averaged over 30 fantasy points against Houston. And in 2 of those 3 games, he did not have a reception. Well, what have we seen Derrick Henry get involved with more this year? Receiving. This is half-point PPR. You're probably giving the man 1.5 points just for that. Not to mention his carries have gone up every single week. I believe it was 30 carries he saw last week. I expect him to smash this, possibly 2 touchdowns and well over 100 and some yards.
Yeah, with Ryan Tannehill being banged up, I definitely think they're going to lean on the run. Whether Tannehill plays or not, I think you'll see Derrick Henry getting 25-plus carries this week. So Derrick Henry's an easy smash for me this week. If it stays that low, I'd be shocked. I think that may be one you see take a little step forward come Sunday. But I love him at 17. My running back, this one might be a little bit closer to your heart here, so we'll see. I've got Saquon Barkley at 18.48 and a half point PPR against your Seattle Seahawks.
Over. We can't stop a receiving running back. Saquon Barkley's going to have a field day with us. I'm taking well over.
I agree. I think Saquon goes over as well. Again, there's not a whole lot of healthy pass-catching options there in New York, and they keep finding a way to get it done. But I think it's going to have to come through Saquon this week if they're going to get a win. So Saquon definitely should be having a very, very good week. But then again, we also said that, with the Chargers and everything, and I do believe most of them had a very, very good week. So let's go. I think Eckler was fine.
Yeah, I'm going to go with another wideout. I've already talked about him today, so I'm going to throw him out there now. Debo. So I'm going back through this as I was looking back through his stats here, and his projection is 14.25 this week in PPR leagues, which he has only gone over 14 points twice this year. They play the Los Angeles Rams, so probably seeing Jalen Ramsey. I know Ramsey doesn't, scare a whole lot of people like he used to. He's still a very, very good corner. What do you take of the 14.25 points there for Debo? What do you think about that one?
Well, if he's only done it twice, I know one of them was against Jalen Ramsey and the Rams, 3-4 weeks ago. So it's definitely something I could see happening again. Debo's he's that talented. The Rams' run defense is very good, so I could see CMC might be taken out of the equation somewhat early and have to lean on, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and of course CMC coming out of the backfield. But I think with 14 and against the Rams, that's probably right about where I'd have Debo. But just for the sake of it, just because I think this may be like your last really full week where you can, see Debo do something before that CMC really starts taking into his value. I'm going to say over on Debo, but I don't think it's by a lot.
I too am actually going to say over. I think, I'm sorry. I'm saying under. Rams coming off a bye. They were coming off, a rough outing. Their last outing before the bye. I think the Rams come out and they come out on fire this week. And I think you see Ramsey come out with some fire, and I think you see him hold Debo down. I'm putting Debo around the 10-point range this week. I think if they're going to beat the Rams, which I don't think they are, I think the Rams take it. I think if they beat the Rams, they're going to have to do it on the back of CMC this week. I think that might be the only guy, or even Ayuk. But I think Debo is going to get the lockdown this week with Jalen Ramsey. I'm taking the under.
Okay. I've got another running back before I move into the wide receivers here, and this is one that you and I have been preaching up pretty hard the last couple of weeks. This is also part of the London game that you mentioned earlier. This is Travis Etienne versus the Denver Broncos in London. 15.45 points and half-point PPR.
Denver. Let's see. So 15. It was 15 and a half. You said
15.45.
Okay. I think that number is probably almost dead on. I'm actually going to say just a little bit under. He had 5 targets last week, but he only had 1 reception. His projection to me really depends on if he actually catches some of the passes. I'm actually going to take just a little bit under on that, but not by much. But I just don't think he quite gets there. I think it's a possibility of a slow start for Jacksonville, so I'm going to take the under.
I'm taking the under as well, even though I did just mention him as part of the weapons that Trevor Lawrence has. I'm thinking that there's a good chance that Etienne may have 3 or 4 catches, but I think his work on the ground is actually going to be slow this week. Denver's defense has been pretty good against the pass, but they do still have guys like Bradley Chubb on that defense who are going to make an impact in this game. So I think I'm taking him under 15. The one swaying factor I could say is that if he finds the end zone, this could be something that he gets real close to. But without finding the end zone, I think he's going to be closer to the 12-point mark.
Okay, all right. Let's go to wide receiver Terry McLaurin, playing Indianapolis this week with his projection at 12.58. Where do you have him slated as? What do you think? 12.58 against Indy.
I think it's going to be hard for him to get that. Indy's defense has slowly started to turn it back on here the last few weeks, getting better, getting some takeaways, getting some pressure. It's not saying that I think Taylor Heinicke's a downgrade from Carson Wentz, because I certainly couldn't say that with a straight face. But I do think that Jahan Dotson, Antonio Gibson, Logan Thomas, Curtis Samuel, those guys are going to cut into that work a little bit. And I'm just not sure how much work there's going to be to begin with, because I could very well see with Sam Ehlinger starting for the Colts, this being a huge Jonathan Taylor / Nyheim Hines / Deion Jackson game, where it's, ball control offense, keep it out of Washington's hands, don't let them go put points on the board against us. So because of that, I just think this is a game that's going to go under. I think you're going to see a lot of Brian Robinson, a lot of Jonathan Taylor this week in that matchup.
Yeah, I agree with you on the under. I think with Heineke and Ehlinger starting, I expect this game to be a run first, milk the clock. Who can keep the ball away from who longer? I think this game is going to be a game of keep away, and this game could possibly be the first 1 to 10 points wins. So yeah, I'm taking the under in the Terry McLaurin points. Also, Indy, like you said, has been getting slowly but surely better. They are giving up the least amount of fantasy points to all wideouts this season in fantasy.
Well, another key factor in this, too, is if Sam Ehlinger comes out and throws like 4 picks in this game, Frank Wright's going to look like an absolute bonehead for benching Matt Ryan in favor of him. So I think he's probably going to try to protect his quarterback a little bit this week, which is another reason why I think it's going to be so much on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
So my one and only wideout I have this week is a guy that, again, you and I have talked up pretty highly over the course of the season at different points. But it's Brandon Cooks versus the Tennessee Titans, projected at 11.5 points.
11.5 points. I know the Titans have been slowly decent on the defensive side of the ball. 11.5 points. I know Nico Collins is a little banged up. So I don't know if he plays 11.5 points going against Tennessee. I know Tennessee's going to run all over them. I'm going to take the over in it. I'm going to take the over because I think Derrick Henry puts Tennessee on his back and puts them up to a big lead early, and they're going to have to throw the ball just to keep up with the big old Derrick Henry. So I'm going to take the over.
Yeah, I don't think Houston keeps up with anybody by passing. I think they're slowly starting to find their identities as a running team as well. They're definitely feeding Dameon Pierce the ball like they have a bell cow. So I think you're going to see, at the beginning of the season, I'm not sure I would have been appetized by this, but a Derrick Henry versus Dameon Pierce game here. And I genuinely think you'll see some passes completed. Obviously, in this game, it won't just be all runs because neither of these teams are the Atlanta Falcons. But I think with the emergence of Nico Collins as of late, I just don't know if I expect to see. I think without Brandon Cooks finding the end zone, he'd have to have 6+ receptions to get close to this because he's just not burning anybody up anymore. I know this is another name of a guy that is heavily talked about in the trade market right now. Green Bay's sniffing around. There's a couple other teams sniffing around him. So maybe Houston doesn't even play him that much just to keep his numbers down, keep him from getting hurt too bad. But prior to a trade, that's something we've seen in the past couple of weeks with guys like James Robinson's usage going down, some other guys, and then they end up traded. So I think he goes under his 11.53, but if I had to pick one of them that I've done this week that I think's right on, this is the closest one that I think's really, really close, but I'm going to say he just goes under it.
All right. So I'm gonna move into the sexiest position in fantasy football right now. Everybody's
offensive
favorite
lineman.
I didn't say the sexiest people. I mean,
Well.
We're gonna move into the tight end position. We're going to talk about one of your old favorites. Don't know how you feel about him anymore. Mr. Mike Gesicki over at 7.31 PPR points, half-point PPR points. What do you think of 7.31? Why did Miami traveling to... Sorry about this. Apparently I forgot to write it.
You said 7.13?
7.31.
7.31.
Yeah. Traveling to Detroit. Sorry about that.
Detroit's defense, I'm thinking that you and I could probably go and put some positive fantasy numbers up against the Detroit Lions defense at this point. So I'm going to take the 7.31 on Gesicki and say he goes over. Detroit's not done a good job of slowing down much this year. at one point they could at least keep up with people offensively. They're not done that either recently. So I'm going to go over on Mike Gesicki. I don't think it's by a lot, obviously, when you're the fourth string of your fourth fiddle in your offense behind Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Raheem Mostert. There's probably not a whole lot of scraps out there, but I could see him going over 7 pretty comfortably. I mean, I think you see double digits out of him this week.
Well, apparently the Sleeper app and Half Point PPR also thinks that already, because they've already changed their projection from when I took these notes earlier today. They went up a point. He's at 8.31 now. Yeah, I think he's going up against Detroit. Not even talking about their defense. Gesicki has seen 7 targets the last 2 weeks. So I think he easily goes over this one. I think, like you said, double digits. And then you add in the fact that Detroit is the 5th worst at defending tight ends in fantasy football and giving up points. So, yeah, I think Mike Gesicki goes well over that today. Or Sunday, sorry.
Absolutely. I just think if the matchup was a little bit better defensively, I might say no. But my tight end that I have for you is going up against one of the best defenses in fantasy or in football, period, and they don't give up a whole lot of points to any position. That's Pat Freiermuth at 9.36, traveling to Philly.
Traveling to Philly, they just added another defensive rusher.
Robert Quinn.
Quinn, yeah. 9 points. I'm taking the over, and here's why. I think you possibly see Claypool sit out this game with his name being rumored in the trade mill. So I think Freiermuth is going to see some more targets. I'm taking the over of the 9 points this week, and that's really it. That's really the only reason I think Claypool sits down. I know, some people are not going to want to hear that, but yeah, I'm gonna lean the over with old Patty.
I'm also taking the over here just simply because this is a rookie quarterback and Kenny Pickett, who's not been great at this point. He's had some turnover issues, and what better way to build some confidence than getting some passes completed to your tight end there, especially against a defense like this. You're going to struggle to move the ball against them, I think. So if you can use Pat Freiermuth and pick up some first downs and really start building up that young quarterback's mentality and his confidence for the rest of the game, I think you do that. So I think Mike Tomlin's going to scheme for some Pat Freiermuth this week. So why shouldn't I?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's all I got for projections. You got any more written down?
Nope, I'm excited to move into these future rookies.
Oh, we're moving into the rookies. All right. So I'm going to jump into one of my favorite colleges to look at running backs. I'm pretty sure the last, 2 years since we've been in our Dynasty League, I've, looked into this college for a few running backs, and I think I may have said his name last year too. And that's Zach Charbonnet out of UCLA. He was supposed to come out last year. He was actually top 5, I think, last year in the class. We know it wasn't the greatest of classes. And he said he wanted to go back to school so he could work on his pass protection and his pass receiving, his receiving work. This year he's seen he's 6'1", 220 pounds. So big guy, big back. He's seen 107 touches for 766 yards, 7 touchdowns, 7.2 yards per rush average. Now, like I said, he went back in to UCLA to work on his pass catching. He's only seen 10 receptions this year, so I don't know if it actually helped him out a whole lot. He is with, like I said, he's with the 6-1 UCLA Bruins. He's a guy just keep an eye on. Like I said, he's a big back. He could end up, filling into a workhorse role. I did read a little later on as I was doing some research, his pass protection has not improved a whole lot. So this is a guy that you may have to sit on and wait, but this is the guy I'm definitely keeping my eye on, especially with his size.
Yeah, the guy I've got at the running back position this week is a guy that plays his college ball right up the road from us here in Illinois. This is Chase Brown, the 5'11", 205-pound junior out of the University of Illinois, currently leading the nation in rushing this season. He's got 192 rushes for 1,059 yards, 4 touchdowns, along with 15 receptions for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is a large part of why Illinois has been so successful this year, along with their defense. And this is a team out of the Big Ten that's been wildly successful this year, more so than they have been in much recent years. And I think it'd be a lie to not tip your hat to Chase Brown as a reason for that. Over the course of his career, he's had 540 carries for 2,974 yards, 12 touchdowns. And then he does have 2 career touchdowns through the air, and those will both come through this year. But he's got 46 total receptions for 388 yards. So definitely a guy that could potentially be a 3-down back in the NFL if he decides to declare this year, which I think he'd be silly not to, being the nation's leading rusher at this point in the season. I think he'll be getting some encouraging words to go ahead and come on out from a lot of folks. So definitely one that I'm going to keep my eye on for draft season.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Been fun to watch, too, every chance I get to turn an Illinois game on. That team's been very fun to watch. Let's jump into this.
Well, that's a perfect segue to Thursday night. You talk about games that have been fun to watch, and then we talk about Thursday night football. It's not been much fun to watch. Last week was probably the best one we've had all season. So
yeah, and I still think after we talk about this one and we watch this one, I still think last week 7 still is going to be the better one. As we go watch the Baltimore Ravens play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Thursday night. I know. The team names sound like this is going to be an amazing game. I don't think it's going to be. I think Baltimore's going to come out. I think Baltimore's going to put in the work. And I think Baltimore's going to go home and not give up a fourth quarter lead. And I don't know what is going on in Tampa Bay. But I don't think a short week is going to do them any good. The one thing I will say to keep an eye on is keep an eye on the Fournette-White splits this week, because it may be a little deceiving due to the fact that it is a short week. Young legs versus the older gentleman in the backfield, very knowledgeable coaching staff. You may see more White this week than you have all season. But I don't know if it's going to be a complete, judgment call of that's how the rest of the season is going to be going forward.
Yeah, Brant, my thing that I'm looking forward to this weekend is, thankfully I don't own much of them, but is seeing if Tom Brady can right the ship this year, get it turned back around, get some of these Tampa Bay pass-catching weapons back involved. I know Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, those are guys that people target early and often in drafts. And, this is if this ship doesn't get righted this week, I think you're going to start to see a lot of people start pressing the panic button and fire sailing and unloading, guys like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. And, it's definitely something I'm going to want to wait and see. I know Baltimore's got a very good defense. It seems in the past they've been, burned in the fourth quarter a little bit, but these guys are starting to get that conditioning where it needs to be over the course of the season. I don't see that happening either. But, if we get another bad week out of Tom Brady, I don't want to be the guy to say it on air that, Tom Brady's done, because, 2 weeks from now when they're, winning games 45 to whatever and 50 to whatever, and it's like, yeah, okay, I guess I was a little early and premature on that one. But definitely not been good out of Tom Brady this year, so definitely interested to see if it gets back on track. As always, don't flex these Thursday night guys. Put them in your wide receiver and running back spots so they don't burn you later on during the week. But hopefully it's a good game, but I'm kind of leaning towards you. I don't know if it will be.
Yeah, that's cute. 2 weeks, Tom Brady hanging 50 points. Who do they play in 2 weeks? Oh, that's right, my Seahawks in Germany. I would not be surprised to see him lay 50 points against our secondary. Another thing that I'm going to keep my eye on this week is the Gus Edwards, Kenyon Drake thing there in Baltimore. I think you might see a little more Kenyon Drake due to the fact that it is a short week and, Edwards is coming off an injury. So that's another one that I'm interested in keeping an eye on. So yeah, definitely both running back committees are the things that I'll be watching this week. We all know Lamar Jackson can't throw. I guess I really want to see if Bateman can play. But other than that, I'm not looking forward really to watch this game too much.
You know what I am looking forward to, Brant, being with all these lovely people on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Time,
Yes.
to do your start sits and help people, get ready for their Sunday games. Though obviously we'll have the football game on in the background exclusively to ESPN Plus this weekend. So keep that in mind. And as always, stay hungry
And stay fat, my friends.